The PC37X gaming headset from Mastrop and Sennheiser brings you into the game with an open-back design featuring angled drivers for pinpoint locational accuracy. Be heard clearly through the fold-down noise-canceling mic and enjoy the long-lasting comfort of large plush velvet ear pads. Now available in an all-matte black finish, so the headset looks as good as it sounds. For more info, click the link in the description and catch the drop before it's gone.
Alright guys, so I don't know why I'm so tired right now. The other week, I took my cousin's gaming PC, I basically upgraded it aesthetically, pimped it out, so to speak, and you guys seem to really enjoy that. So this time around, I thought I'd do something a little different by doing the same thing to a fan's PC. This is Kent's system. He's a longtime viewer of the channel, and he has a really nice system, actually. It's pretty solid performance-wise, which makes it a great candidate for throwing in some aesthetic upgrades, which we're going to do today. Should be a lot of fun. Maybe even a performance upgrade or two. We shall see. But let's quickly talk about his PC, where we're coming from. We have a Core i5-6600K, which is a 4-core CPU from Intel. Still a great gaming chip on the Z170 platform. It's a Z170M Pro 4S from ASRock. It's actually a micro ATX board, which is somewhat dwarfed inside of this ATX tower from Deepcool. This is one of their more budget-level, entry-level cases. There's a Hyper 212 from Cooler Master. We got 16 gigs of DDR4 memory, I believe, from Team Group. Not sure what speed, though. A GTX 970 from MSI. It's actually pretty solid still. 4 gigabyte card, 4 gigabytes. Along with 3 drives, 2 of which are mechanical, 1 of which is an SSD from which he is booting. And then we have a 550 watt Hale 8.2 V2 power supply from NZXT, 80 plus bronze, certified, modular, and all that jazz. So altogether, a pretty decent system for him having built it just a couple years ago. But it could definitely use a cosmetic bump. It doesn't look all that pretty. Nothing against Deepcool, they make some great products. But the case is just really not doing it for me. This is the side panel. It's old and acrylic and scratched up and stuff. Basically what we're dealing with here today is a PC that from a performance standpoint is ready to rock, but has a long way to go in the aesthetic department. So we're going to help it out today. I also want to give a huge shout out and thanks to Corsair for sponsoring a lot of the hardware and upgraded parts that are going to be going into this system. This build would not be possible without them. Now before we just start pulling parts out and swapping parts in, I wanted to quickly go over my thought process behind this upgrade. As an upgrade, as a PC upgrade, I wanted to keep the core platform, unlike the part 1 upgrade video of my Craigslist PC series, that we can ignore that. But for this build, I'm going to do things right this time and keep the core platform. So we're keeping the Z170 chipset, the motherboard, and the CPU as well. 6600K, still a very solid chip for gaming. However, the motherboard heat sinks are kind of concerning to me. They're a nasty gold color that's really not going to match with anything else by the time this build is done. So I want to pop those off and just give them a nice Plastidip treatment, just plain black, have them blend in with the rest of the PCB. This probably shouldn't affect temps very much. It's not a crazy overclocking board just from looking at the VRM, so I really doubt thermals are a huge concern here, but the board will come out looking a lot better at the end of the day. Now, despite all the praise that I've given the Hyper 212 over the years for being a great price to performance option, it's really not the prettiest cooler on the market, so we're going to be swapping that out with something a little bit more classy. Also, the memory and power supply here are pretty much good to go in my opinion. I would not mind reusing them, but because we have Corsair as a primary sponsor, they've actually decided to hook Kent up with a brand new kit of memory and a power supply, so we'll be swapping those out as well. Obviously, if we were on a more conventional budget, then I'd probably find a way to make the existing PSU and memory work. I'm not going to touch the storage solution at all. That's all Kent at this point. The case, however, I think needs to go. It's looking a little dated, and for the amount of nice-looking hardware that we're going to be putting inside of this case, I think the outside also needs to reflect that sexiness. So once again, we're going to look to Corsair for that upgrade. And finally, the graphics card, GTX 970, very solid card, even here in 2018. However, I think just because Kent is such a cool guy and such a great fan, even after all these years, I think we're going to upgrade his GPU. Just because we can. Toss in some cable extensions, an LED strip perhaps, and I think we can call it a day. So that's what we're up against today, folks. I think the first rule of order here is to gut the system completely and get access to those motherboard heatsinks so we can begin spray painting them, and then we'll just go from there. So why don't we do that right now?
right, our motherboard's complete. The heat sinks dried up pretty well. They're finally black and matching everything else on the board, so we have a color-neutral motherboard to start with. We can begin adding more parts to the mix, starting with this first wave of Corsair hardware, like a Vengeance RGB Pro 16GB kit. This is DDR4 at 3200 speed. 10 RGB LEDs per module creates a very nice series of LED effects. We also have the H100i Pro RGB, 240mm liquid aero. I think the ML series fans are the real star of the show here. They're just absolutely fantastic performers, and maybe it's a bit overkill for the amount of overclocking that Kent might do on his 6600K, but at the very least, it'll look really nice, and it'll probably keep the system in check in terms of acoustics with those very quiet NL series fans. So that's what we're gonna start with now. Let's just go ahead and prep the board, and then we'll move on to installing it in Kent's brand new case. Moving right along here, our motherboard's all prepped, and it's looking good already. It's about to look a whole lot better though inside of its brand new chassis. This is the Corsair Crystal Series 280X Micro ATX case, which means it's gonna match and sort of fit this motherboard a lot more proportionately than the previous chassis that it was in. This case is great for liquid cooling and air cooling alike. It's got plenty of tempered glass so you can see sort of the beauty side of things, but also a second chamber for power supply, storage, and cabling, so you can hide all of that nasty business. Oh, plastic wrap, hello. Hold on. Hold on. Oh, excuse me while I don't get distracted at all. You know, my job's hard sometimes, but this makes it all worth it. Where was I? Oh yes, building a computer. Let's do that. All right, getting down to the wire here. All we have left to do is install our drives. We have plenty of storage space inside of this case. We also have our power supply, which is sponsored yet again by Corsair. This is their RM650X. Beautiful unit, absolutely fantastic reliability, 80 plus gold certified, fully modular, very quiet fan, and so forth. We're also gonna be dropping in some sleeved extensions, once again from up here. This is the same brand that I used for my cousin's PC. However, these are a very different type of sleeving. Instead of the sort of plastic, I don't know if it's paracord, but the sort of plastic inflexible sleeving that we saw previously, this is more of like a fabric type of material, which is also very nice. Just make sure that you know which one you're getting. I initially thought that these were black and white cables, but now I'm kind of glad that they turned out to be more silvery, because there's gonna be more silver in this build than I originally anticipated after I add in the upgraded GPU, which is the EVGA GTX 1080 for the win. With its silvery accents, it should be a very nice bump over the GTX 970. And this is my own card that I'm donating here to the build, not sponsored. Just thought you guys should know what an awesome person I am. So without further ado, let's go ahead and wrap this build up, and then we'll cut to some sexy B-roll and call it a day. Look at that build. Man, what a difference changing almost every single component in a computer makes. It's okay, we're still using the same motherboard and CPU. It's technically kind of the same computer, but totally not. At any rate, it looks a lot nicer than it used to, in my opinion. Looks are subjective. Kent might hate it. and at that point it's his problem and no longer mine. But for the meantime, I think he's gonna enjoy it. There's a lot of air moving through the case, more importantly, with these high-profile Corsair fans. It's very RGB lit in there with the cable mod wide beam LED strip and the RAM and the water block. It's all configurable to a point, to Kent's liking. The H100i RGB Pro actually didn't get plugged into the motherboard because that MOBO only has one USB 2.0 header, which is currently occupied by the Lighting Node Pro that comes included with this chassis. So if Kent wanted to actually fiddle with the RGB lighting on this water block, he'd probably have to get like a USB 2.0 hub to make that happen, but everything else is pretty much good to go. It's one thing I overlooked when starting this revamp was there's only one USB 2.0 header on that motherboard. I'll check next time. Our GTX 1080 is sagging a little bit. I kind of expected that because I know the card very well. I know that it's prone to sagging, but it doesn't look like it'd be too difficult to prop it up, especially since it's so close to the floor of the chassis. But yeah, again, this is the build. This is Kent's new system. Hopefully he likes it. You guys let me know what you think in the comments below, and toss a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Also, get subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any more tech content right around the corner, and feel free to check me out on FLOATPLANE if you'd like to watch my videos a whole week early without ads for $3 a month. I'll put a link for that in the video description. Till next time, guys, thank you for tuning in. Have yourselves a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.